And as soon as I start recording, the cat wants attention, like clockwork. What's up, kids? Eric Malachite with another story rant video, this time touching on a different subject relating to tabletop RPGs and D&D, and it's something that I've been thinking about for a while, ever since I picked up Call of Cthulhu. The possibilities have exploded in my brain case, one might say. I do want to touch on the OGL 1.2, but we're going to save that for a little bit later on, as I don't want this video to be bogged down with overt negativity, which, you know, a lot of last week and the previous week before that was dedicated towards our collective shock as a community toward Wizards of the Coast and their admittedly very bad decisions. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about something else for a change, though. Let's talk about combat and combat-centric tabletop scenarios. So, Call of Cthulhu is a really interesting game. It's my favorite tabletop RPG right now. If you haven't played it, it's a horror game that's very different from D&D. If you love D&D's constant adventuring and escalating power levels and things like that, and heroic quests to find magic rings and drop them into volcanoes that are totally not Mordor, then Call of Cthulhu might not be the game for you and your group. I always describe Call of Cthulhu as being the reverse of Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, where Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder want to build you up from nothing until you are reaching godhood. In Call of Cthulhu, it's a horror game, so you start off with very little, and it's essentially a downward spiral into madness. You are fighting against these eldritch gods that want to break into our universe. So your heroic actions are tied to staying sane, solving clues, and, well, most importantly, not dying before you're able to stop the evil cults or what have you from unleashing Cthulhu or any of the related entities from Lovecraft's pantheon. So the reason why this is interesting is because a lot of D&D campaigns are focused around combat, battling enemies and whatnot. And this is fine. This is totally cool. I love action just as much as any other fantasy fan. So I am definitely not saying that you shouldn't have combat in your D&D scenarios. But what I am saying is, like, there's room for nuance, because Call of Cthulhu and its handout and mystery mechanics are not unique necessarily to the rest of the TTRPG landscape, right? Having mystery elements or elements where there is cloak and dagger is not something that's exclusive to horror games. And I've especially enjoyed running Call of Cthulhu scenarios that require different types of evidence, like scientific evidence, for example. If you have a group of researchers that are, say, probing these weird alien life forms to find some sort of scientific explanation for why they are what they are, a little bit of research might go into planning those scenarios, and your players might need to have some scientific knowledge themselves, but it could result in a very interesting and unique experience. So in regards to D&D and Pathfinder and other fantasy tabletop RPGs, I am specifically referring to DMs who discourage diplomacy during combat. So let's use the example of kobolds. I have played in D&D campaigns in the past where if I was to make a diplomacy roll to try to figure out why these kobolds are attacking us or what have you, or try to establish a line of communication even while keeping our defenses up, I would be penalized by these DMs. And one might say they're a problem DM then. But not necessarily, because when you join a group, and especially a new group that's been ongoing for a while, you need to feel out what the group dynamic is, what the aim of their play is, because your play style, your character might not match the personalities and the play styles of the other players. So it's always good to have a session zero and, you know, troubleshoot any of these issues before they become a problem. I know I can get a little overzealous. I love to play dumb but earnest characters sometimes because I am not that in real life. So I'll play a caveman or something, and that can get a little annoying if a group is not on board with that concept. Call of Cthulhu concepts in D&D. There's a Dark Souls 5th edition expansion, which I really want to try out, and I probably need to order it before Wizards decides to reject and destroy the original OGL. But, you know, that's a different topic. Mysteries and handouts are really easy to make and to set up. You know, all you need is a string of different clues to lead your players around some interesting parties and whatnot, and it might be worth it, even if you're not a fan of Call of Cthulhu itself, to read the rules, because it is such a well put together book. Even if you say, once you're done reading the book or the basic rules or whatnot, that you're not going to end up playing this game, that's fine. Because Call of Cthulhu and all of Chaosium's RPGs are based around the same system. I believe it's called the basic role-playing system. So they have an OGL, which is open for this system that you can use as well. So, and they've got a fantasy RPG. Honestly, I'm going to check that out next time I want to run a fantasy RPG. Because, you know, frankly, I'm done with D&D and I love Chaosium so much. I love the system that Call of Cthulhu is based on. I want to try other things that they've produced as well and expand my shelf too, which is already starting to get full. Anyway, to update you guys on the OGL 1.2 fiasco, Wizards has definitely hired a PR firm because their tone has completely changed. Some guy named Kyle is apparently the lead designer behind D&D now. It's pretty clear from the messaging, and I'll put it up on screen, but I'm not going to read it off to you guys or anything. A lot of other channels have already covered this. Oh, there she goes. Other channels have already covered this in depth, so I don't really feel the need to do so here. I will say that the morality clause and a lot of the language is really shady. So if you're thinking that you can trust Wizards of the Coast, think again. Corporations, they're not your friends, you know, especially the big ones. The big ones like Wizards of the Coast, not your friends. Hasbro, not your friend. They are looking to really leverage this and win back some positive PR with the community because they are hemorrhaging subscriptions right now. And I'm sure, damn it, Kat. Oh, there she goes. She's unhappy. She's not the center of attention. But yeah, the messaging is super, super shady. And even though Wizards is saying that the new OGL will be irrevocable, it's also really easy for them to just basically reject it or suspend your license for any reason whatsoever. It's whatever content that they deem to be hateful or what have you. And look, we all want, most of us at least, want an inclusive tabletop space, an inclusive community that accepts everyone. And I'm pretty sure that nobody wants to sit at a table with a literal Nazi. But it's not just the morality clause, because they also say anything that is obscene. What constitutes obscene? Other people have talked about this too, and I absolutely agree. If they can decide something is obscene, can they, for instance, if your DM moonlights as a exotic dancer or a sex worker, does that count as obscene? I would say no. I would say it's none of their damn business. But Wizards can decide with this clause to pull the rug out from under your DM who is releasing third-party content. That's kind of an important stipulation, isn't it? So yeah, not great. Not great things in the 1.2 OGL, but that's really all I'm going to say about that. Don't trust corporations. They're not your friends. I've written a lot of corporate horror. In fact, one of those corporate horror cyberpunk stories is in a brand new anthology, which is releasing tomorrow. The book is called Neo Cyberpunk 3 and features 14 other cutting-edge cyberpunk authors such as MD Cooper, Anna Monkey Cat, myself, and James LG. So yeah, you can head over to Amazon or any of the books to read links that I'm going to have in the description and check that out. Pre-orders are live right now. The print edition should be out tomorrow when the book releases on Kindle and every other platform too. Anyways, what do you think about non-combat oriented tabletop games? Would you like to see more mystery included in your ongoing campaign? Do you need advice? Let me know in the comments down below. Or if you disagree with anything I said, comment as well. Anyways, be sure to do all that algorithmic jazz, and I'll see you next time, Space Cowboy.